Good morning, good afternoon, kia ora, bulavanaka, hello to you, wherever you're joining from in the Pacific or across Asia today. Happy Global Handwashing Day for 2023. We're very pleased that you could join us today for our webinar, which is to celebrate Global Handwashing Day and particularly look at the role of water utilities and the role they play in providing water for hand hygiene. I'm Bronwyn Powell. I'm your facilitator today. I'm joining from the Yagara Turrbal land in Brisbane, Meanjin in Queensland, Australia, and I'd like to acknowledge the people of this land, elders past, present and emerging. So we're very pleased today. We have a panel planned, a discussion where we'll hear from hopefully Water PNG and also Solomon Water, though I think we are having some connection issues with one of our panel members. Hopefully that resolves itself over the introductory period. And then we'll also have a presentation by Kencho Nyamyal from UNICEF, the Chief of WASH in the Pacific. But first of all, some introductions. So if you don't mind, we'd really like to know who's online today. If you could put your name and your organizational project in the chat box, it would be great to see who's joining us today and where you're based.
I'm Ann.
Oh, yes, great. That's great. Thank you so much. So just in terms of housekeeping, it's great if you could please turn off your microphone while the speakers are on, because that background noise is a bit of a distraction for people. If you do have a question, please feel free to put that in the chat box as we go along. You can also raise your hand during the question session, so I'll know to come to you so you can ask the question verbally if you'd like to, and we'll make sure we keep this session as interactive as possible. First of all, just quickly, we did have some celebrations with our project. I know many of you have been celebrating Global Handwashing Day across the Pacific, but this is the celebrations that we saw in Yap in Federated States and Micronesia, where there was a walkathon and
I'm
demonstration.
Maria. This is Leia. Hello.
Hello, Leia. We can hear you.
My name is not indicating as Leia. I don't know. I cannot change it right now. It's somebody. It's Bianca's name. Apologies.
That's fine. Thanks for that. We're coming to your introduction in just a minute. We did have in the Yap, we're very excited to celebrate Global Handwashing Day there, have demonstrations and a walkathon, and you can see those celebrations in a few photos here. So just by way of outline, we will start obviously with introductory remarks when we get to Leah. Also, we will have a live poll, a Mentimeter, so a chance for you to have to hear your views, see where you're joining from, which kinds of organisations, and also you'll get your views on what you see as the roles of different organisations and particularly of utilities in this issue of hand washing with soap. We have a panel discussion and then followed by a presentation, and then at the end closing poll, and hopefully we'll have time, or we'll definitely make time for a group photo. Sinead, do we know if DG has had her sound issues resolved? I will skip to the Menti. Good idea. So yes. If you're online, you can join either with your phone by scanning this QR code, or you can put in that Menti website address, www.menti.com, and then they'll ask you for a code, and the code is 79290528. So it would be wonderful if you could hop on there, and then I will start to be able to share the results as they start coming in. I'll check how they're going while that's up and you're joining the slides online for Menti. And if there's confirmation that DG can hear and also use speaker, that'd be great. If someone could let me know.
DG is all set to go after the poll.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, that's great. Let's do the poll then. So how are you getting onto the Menti website? I can't see any results coming in yet, but hopefully you're starting to connect using that QR code and that Menti code. Great. All right. They are starting to come in. We might just leave it on that slide so people can keep scanning for a little bit longer. Sinead. And if you don't mind dropping the code into the chat and the link into the chat, then people have access if they drop off or still trying to connect. Okay, if you stop sharing, then I can get on and share the results, which are starting to come in, which is great. Okay, here we go. So our first question in the Menti is, what type of organisation are you joining from? And so far we have a number of development partners. Is that showing through okay on your screen, everyone? Yep, great. So quite a number of development partners, non-government organisations, so NGOs and civil society, as well as some utilities. I'll just keep going so that we can move to the next question. Next question is, utilities have a role in supporting hand washing with soap. So do you strongly agree or strongly disagree? Somewhere on that sliding scale, feel free to put your responses. And then the final question for today, what organisation should be involved in supporting hand washing with soap? So we've already got a number of answers there, which is excellent. So we see water service providers, water utilities, local communities, everyone. Yep, that's a good answer. Everyone needs to wash hands. Private sector definitely have a role in making sure that the facilities, materials are all available. UNICEF's listed, and church organisations and government national ministries. That's all excellent. Great responses. Feel free to keep filling that in if you're still going with it, and we'll come back and revisit that later in the session. Thanks so much for filling in that poll, and I'll stop sharing and hand to DG now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bronwyn, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. My apologies, I had technical difficulties this morning, but anyway, it's good to be back. So welcome to today's Pacific Wash webinar. And by the way, belated, very happy Global Hand Washing Day to all. It is again our pleasure to co-host today's webinar with our partner, the Pacific Water and Wastewater Association. I would like to acknowledge the presence of PWWA CEO Lucia Cefo Leao and colleagues from the PWWA utilities and government agencies across the Pacific, along with our development partners and colleagues from ADB. So thanks for joining us today for this special panel discussion for Global Hand Washing Day. Our focus today is on the role of water utilities in supporting hand hygiene across the Pacific region. So we marked the Global Hand Washing Day officially last Sunday. We are pleased to be extending the celebrations to today's discussion, where we consider the progress that has been made in the Pacific towards improved hand hygiene and how utilities have and can contribute to this. The theme for Global Hand Washing Day this 2023 is Clean Hands Are Within Reach. While strides have been made in recent years, While strides have been made in recent years to improve hand hygiene, efforts must be tripled to achieve the global targets. This requires a focus not only on individual hand hygiene behavior, but also on broader efforts to create an enabling environment that supports the scaling up of hand hygiene within local systems. Water utilities are uniquely placed to play an important role in this. They provide the infrastructure support and water services needed to practice good hand washing behaviors every day. Today, we will hear from Water PNG and the Solomon Water Authority on how their businesses support and encourage effective hand hygiene. ADB is working with Solomon Water and Water PNG through our ongoing projects in both countries, as well as our technical assistance, strengthening wash practices and hygiene behavioral change in the Pacific. Through this TA, we have been helping support the development of hygiene behavioral change campaigns and have seen firsthand the work they are doing to improve hand hygiene in their respective countries. I'm also looking forward to hearing from our UNICEF colleagues on their monitoring and support for programs to improve hand washing in the Pacific. It will truly take us all to ensure clean hands are within reach. So thank you for joining us today. And once again, happy Global Hand Washing Day, and looking forward to a very engaging discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DG Leah Gutierrez. Wonderful that you could join us today and provide that scene-setting introduction. We do have an apology from the CEO of the Pacific Water and Wastewater Association, Lucia Cefalia, who was unable to join today. We might get started with this panel discussion. So we're here to celebrate Global Handwashing Day, as we've heard. Hand washing with soap remains one of the most effective and affordable ways to prevent diarrheal disease, which still remains a leading cause of morbidity and mortality in children, as well as hand washing also prevents the spread of other water and sanitation related diseases. We did see a huge increase in focus and efforts to address hand washing through the COVID pandemic. And now that we're coming out of that era, we ask ourselves, how can we maintain that interest in hand washing with soap as a preventative health measure? Hand washing with soap is usually seen as primarily a health sector issue, and it's something that we teach children early in life, at home and in schools through WASH programs, and we'll hear more about that from UNICEF later in the session. However, we can't wash our hands without access to reliable, safe, and affordable water. However, this water and its reliable access remains out of reach for millions of people still across the Pacific. Water utilities as providers of water services in urban and in some cases peri-urban areas are a key player in Pacific water access. In fact, excluding PNG, approximately 50% of Pacific Island country populations receive their water from water utilities. Today, we're very pleased to be able to introduce our panel members. If you don't mind putting the slide up with the panel members on it, that would be great. Thanks, Sinead, and I will introduce them. So our first panel member is Mr. Honk Kiap. So Mr. Kiap majored in public administration and has had over 25 years experience working in public policy with the National Capital District Commission in Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea. Mr. Kiap has had many roles at the NCDC, spanning transport, the home ownership scheme, and urban safety. Mr. Kiap joined Water PNG in 2022 as the General Manager for Government and Community Relations, where he leads a team of 5. We're also very lucky to have Georgina Howe joining us today. Georgina is the National Wash Officer for Solomon Water under the Urban Water Supply and Sanitation Sector Project, which is co-financed by ADB and World Bank. She has over 6 years of experience in the WASH sector and has been working with various stakeholders such as Live and Learn and Plan International and Plan Solomon Islands. She is now currently Solomon Water WASH Project Officer partnering with Live and Learn and Plan for the WASH Hygiene Promotion Project. We also have Kencho Namyal joining us today. Kencho is a WASH professional, has a master's in environmental science, planning and management. He's worked with UNICEF since 2008, including as a WASH specialist in Papua New Guinea and as Chief of WASH in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and Myanmar. And Kencho has recently moved back to the Pacific and is Chief of WASH for the region based in Suva. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Now, for our panel discussion, I would like to start with Honk and some questions to you. So Honk, I wonder if you could tell us, what do you see as Water PNG's main role in supporting hand washing in Port Moresby?
Yeah, thank you. It must be, as I've alluded to you in a couple of our meetings, and what a PNG in the recent years have merged with Edirano, and water supply to village and settlements has been quite a challenge. But the government's focus on providing clean water to village and settlements under the WAS program has now placed PNG in a critical role in terms of providing water services to village and services in Port Moresby. And after the merger, the water PNG used to be the water board, the Edirano, the Port Moresby based water utility. After the merger, it has now become water PNG, and water PNG's obligation now towards the settlement communities in Port Moresby as well as the regional centers policy. We have now water PNG has now been tasked under the WAS policy to at least provide water supply to at least 30 districts and sub-districts throughout the country. That now, after the merger now, a lot of water services we provide to the settlements, mostly most of this the water PNG or through under the water board arrangement provided was not so much of profit oriented. It's a community service obligation was provided, and now that the two entities have merged, the main objective of government's revenue making generation is now a this arrangement, because now it has become a corporate entity and it is a focus. That does not mean that water PNG runs away from its obligation to provide clean water and sanitation to the communities. And currently now under water PNG, now we have some intervention programs that we have in Port Moresby, and we will be probably into what are some of the approaches we are taking to bring water to the settlement communities, of which currently the challenge is that the formerly Edirano regime, the target were the main rateable areas or in customers, and the settlement villages and settlements in village communities are provided with bulk meters, where you have communities having access to 1 meter. We sort of have a what you call MOU arrangements. We sign MOU with water committees in the communities, and the water committees, they collect the bills for that bulk meter. So the settlement committees have been accessing water through that arrangement, but we also have challenges in the settlement communities and even the village communities around Port Moresby and other centers as well. And those challenges result of sometimes the committees community have trust issues with the committees, and sometimes people don't get to pay their water bills, and a few people paying it. So these are the challenges that result in accumulation of the bulk meters in their communities. So sometimes they get disconnected for not paying up their bills. That aside, water PNG has an obligation to provide clean water to the village and settlement communities, and we are now looking at one or two options of improving how best we can provide water to those settlement communities, while at the same time we can generate some revenues in this community, the settlement and village communities as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I understand that there's challenges in providing water services to those settlement areas in Port Moresby and in other areas, those 30 districts and sub-districts you mentioned that Water PNG is now responsible for. And it's great to hear that, you know, it's part of Water PNG's corporate outlook to support the national wash policy. In terms of those challenges, I think, yeah, you mentioned the bulk meter arrangement for settlements to access water. I wonder if you could explain how that works, if people are living in those areas, how they access water if they're living in informal settlements now, and also what other models you're exploring to improve or other innovative approaches you're trialing to improve water access for informal settlements.
Yeah, basically, in the Port Moresby scenario and Ley and Mount Hagen, those major cities, the water supply to the settlement has always been a challenge. As I've alluded earlier on, is that though our primary objective now as a corporate entity is to make profit, we also cannot neglect those communities. The previous arrangement through bulk metering, challenges that we've faced is the trust issues and people not complying to the committees and paying the bills. And the reason why they've been given bulk meters is that the metering system only works in rateable areas where you have properly allotted areas with section and allotment prescriptions, where they are formally registered and the meter is registered to those properly allotted areas. So in terms of billing and base, it is easier. Whereas in the settlement areas, you don't have a proper description of the residents, and you cannot. There's no formal address where you can do the billing, give them the billing, and that's the challenge that poses. So what initial arrangement with the bulk meter is that we get them to form their community representative water committees. And then in those water committees, we sign MOUs with the water committees between Water PNG and the water committees. And these committees sign up to represent the communities in terms of collecting the bills and paying. So that arrangement on the onset, you know, people make very important. They make that commitment to pay and all that. But over time, sometimes the trust issues that I'm talking about comes into place where at times when the water committees don't get to remit the full amount that has been contributed by the community to paying for the water bill, that's when members of the community also, have resentments where if we are going to pay and the bill, the funds don't get to go, will not pay at all and service.
Yeah.
But yeah, those
So
are
I
the
think-
challenges. So,
And there were a couple of
Sorry.
new innovative methods you're trialing, like the meter farming, and
Yeah,
also water vending. I wonder if you could explain
Yeah.
those new approaches.
yeah. So having seen those challenges, and having the government's obligation, our obligation to the government under the WAS policy to provide clean water to the communities, we still have to come up with ideas as to how best we can provide water. So some villages, what we call, we install monitoring meters only for the sake of our records, but we don't collect bills from them. So we are now trying to address through two concepts that we are working on at the moment. One of which is the meter farming concept. I think this meter farming concept has already been in place some parts of the Pacific region, and in Papua New Guinea it was tried out in Ley, and we have seen that this option would help much in the village and settlement areas. One key factor is that when you have individual meters from the main water mains to the individual home, the meter is placed within the premises or the residence, and the line between the meter and water mains is quite a distance. So people start to tap into the line between the meter and the water mains. So at the end of the day, the actual person who is paying the meter does not get water, because from the distance from the water main to his or her meter is being tapped into by illegal connections, through illegal connections, and the pressure is diminished until when it comes to the meter, and that is something that has also been realized in the settlement areas, where when we put bulk meters, people don't get water from the standpipes and allocated standpipes, but they decide to go and tap into the main line before the bulk meter, and then they start doing illegal connections, and then sometimes the meter becomes useless because water doesn't run through that meter. So our effort to address that issue through the meter farming is that the meter or two away from the water mains, and all the meter, let's say for instance, there's a cluster of about 10-20 houses nearby, and we put all the 20 meters in that one location cage, so that people who want to connect to the meter, they get their own pipes, run it through, and come and hook up to one of the meters in the cage. That also gives the responsibility back to the customer, that they look after that line, so that people don't do illegal connections into those lines. So that also works for settlement communities, because there is no prescribed allotment or section allotment numbers for those particular areas. So when we have the meters caged, we have people coming and registering for that particular meter, and then they are able to look after their own line. So that we feel that that idea would work very well, and we've tried it out in one of our villages in Hanobada, the major main village in our city, the Hanobada village, and we've tried out one Gabi village, Agua, and the interest shown by the villagers is immense, and it is now the request that we have received is gone past about 400-500. So we are hoping to speed up that and then build up from there. So that's one concept that we are looking at to addressing settlements.
And I guess the focus of that is on ensuring a continuous household connection that is, you're describing a whole lot of challenges from the utility side in ensuring that that's sustained, that people pay their bills, all of these challenges are overcome so that there is sustained water access at the household, which then people can use for their hand washing. I wonder if you could, our technical assistance project has been working with you and your team to develop a campaign to, I guess, ensure that there's really good communication with customers, and thinking of those people in informal settlements as either current or future customers. Maybe if you could explain those messages, key messages, and how you're hoping to get them out to customers, and what are the key elements of that campaign?
Yes, among all those challenges, one of the biggest challenges is communication. Villages and settlements don't know that water is very cheap. The billing meter, water is cheap, but that information has not been, over time, has not been communicated to the people in village and settlement. So the misconception for people in the village and settlement is that when you connect to a meter, it'll be more expensive than you're fetching water from a standpipe paying from someone who has a standpipe and selling it through containers and all that. So that message has not been clearly communicated to the people. So that area is one area that we have realized, and we've also communicated in some of our awareness approaches. We made sure that water is cheap. If you're connected to, then you're buying from a container, and in order to carry out those messages, a robust communication strategy has to be used, and we're grateful that ADP has come on to support us through a partnership of our communication strategy that we're currently working on, and to do manage through social media, print media, video and radio communications, in terms of people having access to clean water and washing hands. So our communication strategy we're developing now with the ADB is that all our intervention programs or communication programs that we carry out in the schools and settlements in communications, it carries a message of wise water usage, washing hands, and not forgetting to pay your water bills. At the same time, in order to have consistent water supply, you report every leakage. You see any leakages somewhere, broken pipes, and all that, you have to report so that they can be fixed, and then there's constant water supply, so that you have constant water supply. And when you have constant water supply and access to water, you have your always wash your hands, because the water is there for you to wash your hands. You have to keep yourself healthy, hygiene, and to live longer.
Yeah. Thanks, Honk. That's great. I think the way that the different messages have been combined through that campaign, and the connecting the, paying the tariff and the continuity, and then the ability to practice those hygiene behaviours. We do have a couple of questions in the chat for you. One is, do you subsidise a portion of the water bill to facilitate access in settlement areas? And also, do you have a connection fee? Unfortunately, Georgina Howe hasn't been able to join, so we'll continue our conversation with Honk. I think Georgina's had some connection issues, and then we'll hand to Kensho soon for his presentation. Thanks, Honk. So those questions about the connection fee to you, and also if there's any subsidy to the water bill in settlement areas.
Yes, in the settlement areas, the water rates are the same. The price ranges or the tariffs are set by ICCC, determine the pricing for the rates. But just to give you a picture of the settlement areas, is that what they're doing now, like where there is no water, people are now paying 5 kina for a 20-liter container. When you look at it, they're buying in the morning, if they're paying for a 20-liter container for cooking in the morning, and then you have another 5 kina for a 20-liter container during the day, and maybe in the afternoon you spend another 5 kina for cooking and washing, or maybe 10 kina for 2 20-liter containers. So on average, you're looking at a person or an household is spending about 20 kina a day for water in especially the settlement areas where there's no water, no low pressure, or no water at all. And our message and our awareness to them is that the current or tariff at the moment now is 1 kina 40 toya for 1,000 liters. That's the current tariff. And our awareness to the village and settlement community is that if you connect to a meter, this is how much you spend for 1,000 liters, as opposed to you spending only 20 kina for maybe 80 to 100 liters in a day. And that is quite expensive. And when that message has been spread, people are now saying, no, bring us the meter, bring the meter to us. 1 kilo 40 toya for 1,000 liters is unbelievable. And that message, they have not heard it before. And we want to, spread that message. So in terms of setting a different rate for village and settlements, is not considered at the moment, but we will try to evaluate the meter farm concept and see how well that goes, and when people whether people are happy with the rate at which 1 kilo 40 per 1,000 liters is cheaper or it gets expensive by the day. We'll find out from there, and then we can make some assessment. But at the moment, the tariffs are set by ICCC, and if we would want to request for a cheaper rate for village and settlements, then we'll have to go back to the ICCC to get the approval.
Thank you. You've just answered a question that Seymour Singh raised in the chat, which is who is involved in the tariff setting. So the ICCC is involved. It's not just the utility themselves setting the tariff there. There are a lot of chats and questions happening. You've raised a lot of good conversation there with your conversation there. Thanks, Honk. And I think we will hand to Kencho for his presentation and then come back at the end to be able to give you a chance to answer those questions and revisit those. So I might hand to you. Thanks, Kencho. And Sinead's going to share the slides.
Okay.
So you can control
yes.
the slides, fine?
Yes.
Yep, over to you.
Thanks. Okay. Hello. Thank you, Brownin and Janet. Hello, everyone. My name is Kencho, and as already Brownin introduced, I'm working as the Chief of WASH Program for UNICEF Pacific Office. We are based here in Suva, but providing support to Pacific Island countries where UNICEF has WASH program in. So thank you for the opportunity to participate in this hand washing promotion, Global Hand Washing Day. So happy Global Hand Washing Day to everyone. And obviously keep saying that hand washing day, it's not just once in a year event. You have to practice whenever before you use toilets, after you use the toilet, before meals, etc., etc. I also saw that when this online poll on which organization should promote hand washing, and I have to admit it's not me who typed UNICEF. Someone has actually typed UNICEF, but I think the responsibility for promoting hand washing, I put it as a national government, the parents, the development partners, and also the CSOs, faith-based organizations. Everyone has a role to play in hand washing. So thank you very much. With regard to my presentation, I will be making a presentation on monitoring of hand washing services, which is now an indicator on the Sustainable Development Goal target, and also how the water utilities can actually play a role in terms of promoting hand washing and hygiene services. So very quickly, I just wanted to actually share this for someone to practice hand washing. We need at least 3 enabling environment to come together. One is on the access to a hand washing facility, and then the second one is access to consumable soap, and then the third one is the behavior itself, the act of correct hand washing. I think as we are emerging out of COVID-19 pandemic, this is really still fresh in our mind, and I hope we can actually continue this source. So the logo for the Global Hand Washing Day actually really nicely pieced together these 3 events. So just want to actually, before sharing about the SDG monitoring and indicators, I just wanted to share a little bit in terms of the monitoring of SDG on basic hand hygiene services. So UNICEF and WHO are the custodian for SDG 6.2 on monitoring sanitation and hygiene services, and SDG 6.1 on clean drinking water. And UNICEF and WHO has a joint monitoring program which is supporting the national government to report on the SDG indicators. Again, I have made this several presentations in the past. Some of you must have already heard this again over and over again. UNICEF and WHO, we do not produce this data on our own. So this data is an estimate based on the national census, national survey, and a lot of admin data that comes from the water utilities as well. So JMP used to monitor hand hygiene services in home, but now it includes school, healthcare facilities as well. So the estimate for household facilities came out this year, but the estimates for updated estimate for water for schools and healthcare facilities will be published next year. Okay, so in terms of the definition for SDG target on basic hand hygiene services, there's a service letter that uses no facility, limited, and basic. So it really, if you talk about no facility, there is no hand washing facility at home or school or healthcare facility. Limited is there might be a hand washing facility, designated hand washing facility, but there may be water but no soap, or there may be a soap but no water, or there may not be water and soap, and then a hand washing facility is not conducive for promoting hand washing. So basic hand washing facilities available to hand washing facility with both soap and water available, and it does not mean just a pipe running water. It can also include low flow devices such as a bucket fitted with a tap or a tippy tap, or now they have modern innovative technologies like innovative devices like Seto tap, which are all low flow devices. So on this slide, it's showing the 2022 household level access to water supply across the Pacific Island countries. I think almost all the countries are doing quite well in terms of access to household water supply. And then the second slide, sorry. The second slide shows the disparity between urban and rural area, and I think especially in urban areas, you can see the coverage is much higher, where I think most of the water utilities companies play a huge role in terms of making water availability at household level. This next slide, this is one that is actually really super interesting for us. In terms of the Pacific Island countries and territories, at least this is a data that is sourced from JMP and also the PWWA benchmarking report. So we try to map against the population that are served by water utility versus the overall population in the country. So at least 12 Pacific Island countries are serving more than 50% of the population. That includes even the rural population. Now, I know that there are some of the larger countries where the coverage is showing low, but at least in the urban areas where they're operating, they're still covering, there's a huge high coverage area as well by the water utilities. So either way, there is a huge possibility for water utility to play a critical role in promotion of hand hygiene behavior. So again, this is the same graph. Again, one of my colleagues at Office, James, has compiled this data, put it together in terms of the population. So because PNG is a huge country, I think he used the data where PNG was excluded from this estimate. But in terms of the population coverage area by service, again, at least 54% served. The other 12% is not completely served, but there is still a huge possibility that almost up to 86-87%, the water utilities can actually provide a huge role in terms of delivering water services. So now the data on hand hygiene services at home, again, this is an estimate. Again, this is an estimate based on the national data that are available in all the countries. Is showing high average. And if you look at the urban and rural area, even in bigger countries, I think there is still a high coverage in terms of access to hand washing services at home, especially in urban area. Now, for UNICEF and also most of our development partners, we work with the national government and also our partners in terms of promoting hand washing in schools, in communities, in healthcare facilities. But one of the critical entry points where we see that we can really actually make a meaningful impact in terms of promotion of hand washing is schools. So because we can first, change the behavior of the children when you actually try to inculcate that behavior at such a young age. And B, that can also bring back the same message back to the communities, to their families, to the home, and also promote hand washing in the home setting as well. So again, during we don't have a recent updated data, but if you really look at the aggregated data, most of the time when you look at school data, in schools that have access to a piped water supply, and again, this is really true for urban areas where they have piped water supply connected to the water utilities service area, the hand washing facilities always have water available. So children can practice hand washing before their meals, after using the toilet, and they can also do group hand washing activities, school-based activity, when they have reliable running water. Again, in most of the schools in urban areas which are served by water utilities, that creates an enabling environment for children to practice that hand washing behavior. So again, across the Pacific Island countries, we see that there is still quite a high coverage in terms of hand washing facilities in schools. So very quickly, in terms of the summary key takeaways, the water utility, certainly, I think I rated almost dragged it down to all the way to the top point in terms of how what are the critical role played by water utilities. Definitely, they play a super important role on promoting promotion of hand washing services, hand washing behavior. The second one is COVID-19 has boosted the effort in promotion of hand washing with soap, but now how do we actually maintain it? There were mushrooming of hand washing facilities everywhere. There are innovative devices, there were behavior that are practiced, but how do we sustain and maintain that momentum? We already see defunct hand washing facilities. We already see behavior actually slumping, so we still need to keep that momentum on as well. And then again, my third point would be the promotion of hand washing through children and washing schools can have immediate impact on the children themselves, the communities, but also can maybe have intergenerational change when they become adults, and also service providers, decision makers in their country. They can actually create that conducive environment. And then finally, obviously, hand washings are definitely within the reach as the slogan for this year, but need more and sustained effort for all settings: home, communities, workplaces, schools, healthcare facilities, etc. So thank you very much for this opportunity to share a few progress.
Thank you so much, Kencho. It's fantastic to see the data available, and increasingly data is available on hand washing access for Pacific Island countries. So I think on the previous GMP data, we had only maybe 5 countries that are reporting, and I can see that that number's increased a lot since the latest reporting round. So I think there's obviously a greater effort being placed in monitoring by national governments and agencies. So that's really good to see. And also, I think your points there, your takeaway points are really well made, that utilities clearly have a role in providing the facilities and the access to the water and making it possible for people to have a hand washing station in their house. But then, as Honk has mentioned, increasingly, many have a role in promotion of the hand washing practice itself as well. Unfortunately, Georgina hasn't been able to join us because the Solomon Water story is that they have connected over 2,000 new households in informal settlements over the last 2 or 3 years or so, and they have been running wash campaigns in communities following the new household connections, and that has included a range of wash practices being promoted, but in particular hand hygiene as well. So it's interesting to see utilities not only providing the facilities and access, but then also being part of that hand hygiene promotion and behaviour change that is such a key part of practicing hand hygiene as well. There have been quite a few questions. I don't know if you wanted to respond in any way to Honk's comments, Kencho, before I go to the questions from the chat. And your reflections on Water PNG story and his presentation and your time there.
No, thank you. Between the time I worked in PNG, now I'm actually really pleased to hear about the effort from Water PNG in terms of extending services to the informal settlement area. I understand the complexity in PNG with the land ownership issue and also the illegal connection, etc. But really, actually, congratulations to Water PNG in terms of making the services available to the vulnerable communities. And I still think that it's really unfair to really pass down the burden to the communities to pay if they have to pay. Was it 20 kina for to meet their daily domestic need, which is a huge amount, right? That people have to pay. But when you provide a pipe water supply, the revenue, I think maybe it comes at a cost for water PNG, but making that services accessible to the informal settlement is really, really appreciated. So I don't think if there are any specific comment, but my appreciation to water PNG for that effort. Thank you.
Yeah, no.
Browning, if I can a bit on Kancho's presentation. A lot of for this washing hands approach that we're taking as a water utility, and with the government's wash policy, we are now driving this. And I forgot to mention a collaboration that we're doing with the National Capital District Commission in terms of those awareness programs. The National Capital District runs a couple of programs, and we programs, and we've collaborated. Our wash campaign programs, we intend to carry out our awareness through the schools of collaboration. While the collaboration was being made, our communication strategy also came into play. So that now puts us in a clear direction as to how we will go about engaging the schools in NCD in terms of campaign. And also, we also through this collaboration, we also want to piggyback CDC's suburban sports programs. Suburban sports program is a sports program targeting all settlements and sporting activities. We would like to carry out our awareness campaigns during those sporting activities. We've targeted rugby league as one of the sports, because rugby league is that's most people here are interested in, and we have currently through that program, we want to use the rugby league program as a platform for us to carry out our awareness on this program, and also our efforts in and settlement areas as well. So that's one collaboration that we are looking at getting on with the. We have finalized all our programs and under collaborations. We are hoping to sign an MOU with the NCDC and go forward with it. Yeah.
Sounds like a great initiative. Thanks for sharing that, Honk. And I think that does speak to that point that Kencho made about it being everyone's responsibility and everyone can play a role. And it's great to see utilities like Water PNG partnering with others and other initiatives with schools, with NGOs to expand those hand washing messages and ensure that the water messages and the value of using a pipe supply over other supplies and it being more affordable, that those messages are well understood in the community. It's great. We are coming towards the end of our time, so I think at this point we're keen for the participants we both want to take a photo. I think that's the next slide, and then also there's a poll. We have a bunch of questions that have come through around the cost models of the meter farm and of tariff setting, and I think there's a huge amount of interest in this. So I think that's giving us an indication that we would very well fill another webinar on that topic. So hopefully we can tackle some of those questions in a lot more detail at a future webinar, probably like next year. I think, Sinead, if you can launch the poll, that would be great.
Everyone should see the poll on their screen, hopefully.
Yep, I can see it. That's
perfect.
Wonderful. So the first question, did today's webinar expand your knowledge and skills on the topic, and did you learn something new that you can use in your work today? So wonderful if you could fill that in. Thank you.
A few more.
It's great. Seems like a lot of people have learnt, or everyone so far has learnt something new today. So that's really great to see. Thanks so much for filling that in. And we will also ask now that you please turn on your video so that we can take a photo of all our participants today. Oh, lots of faces popping up there. Hi, Ine. Hi, Kathy. We have people joining from all over the Pacific, I can see. It's wonderful. Solomon Islands, Tonga, Cook Islands. Excellent. Just let me know when you've got the photo there.
Sorry, I can.
Big smiles from everyone. Happy hand washing day. We all have to go and remember to wash our hands before we eat lunch now. Or whatever time of the day it is for you. We all should all hold our hands up or something, shouldn't we? There we go. Let's put our hands up. Look at all these beautiful hands, clean hands. I'm not sure who's taking the screenshot, but let me know when I can put my hands down.
You can put your hand down.
Thank you.
Just thought I'd leave
Can I
you there
put
for a
mints
few
down?
more seconds.
I think
You look
we've got the
frozen.
shot. You look great though.
Oh,
Great
all right.
hands.
If I'm done, I'll get mans down.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining our session today. Hopefully you've got some clear messages on everyone's role, and particularly the role of utilities and the challenges they face in providing continuous water supply for everyone within the areas they service. Thank you so much. Our next webinar will be on the 29th of November. We hope you can join us then. In the meantime, have fun washing your hands and teaching your kids to wash their hands. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Brown.